So today we're at the AI for Good Summit in Geneva, and I've been lucky enough to run into a very interesting project and gentleman. The gentleman's called Ulrik Lundquist. As you can maybe guess from his name, he comes from the Scandinavian area, but he can say more about that. And he's got a very interesting project name called WildDrone. So I think that also maybe you could imagine where WildDrone comes from. On Digital Talk, we spotlight entrepreneurs, leaders and innovators using digital tech and telecoms to drive global impact in a changing world. Uncovering the unexpected, spotlighting hidden gems, and sharing inspiring stories that shine a light on the most transformative corners of our industry. Welcome to our podcast.
Thanks.
Do you mind just saying a little bit more about yourself, where you come from, and a bit more about your project?
Sure. So my name is Ulrik Schultz Lundquist. I'm a professor and head of the Drone Center at the University of Southern Denmark. And I'm the coordinator, lead on the project called WildDrone, which is a European research project. The Drone Center, we work with engineering of drones. And in particular, this also includes not just getting the drone to fly, but also we come at it from a robotics point of view. So it's about having drones that are autonomous, that can operate by themselves. And we also do work a lot with the communication aspect. We've done a significant amount of work on 5G-enabled drones that I'm happy to talk about. And also in general work with what do we do in those cases, for example, in Africa, where the connectivity might not be quite as good.
Wow, that's quite ambition as well, as a sort of, you've packed a lot in there in what you've just said.
Today's episode is sponsored by IFG Consulting Europe, who help operators to tap into technologies to accelerate digitization of the network, drive revenues, and reduce costs by championing promising software providers. Go to ifgconsultingeurope.com to find out more.
So if we come back to, you said autonomous drones. So where are we with that? Are you have autonomous drones flying? Autonomous to me means like there is no man on the ground controlling them.
That's true. Yeah.
They literally are mission driven.
Yes.
And they even come back.
Yes. Most of the time. Yeah. So actually, the good thing about drone, if you compare them to self-driving cars for a moment, self-driving cars, that's hugely complicated. There's people everywhere and massive amounts of energy in big cars moving around. It's a very difficult problem. A drone, once it takes off, and if the way up is clear, you just take off, and then it's open sky. So autonomy is so much easier there. Although, of course, you have to look out for other air traffickants. And that could include other drones and manned aviation, which is, by the way, why we got into 5G for drones, because we started working on this about 5 years ago, where 5G was not quite as big, because we wanted a reliable telecommunications technology that would allow us to communicate with all the drones in the air and warn them about other nearby airplanes and other nearby drones. And 5G is the only one so far that actually enables us to give, in a useful way, quality of service guarantees. So that's why we are very happy about 5G as well.
So that means it's an autonomous drone,
yes,
running its mission,
yes,
but you're using 5G as a communication channel to update it about in-flight information.
Yes. Yeah,
okay,
true. And that's the crucial thing here, because for safety in aviation, which is you're not allowed to fly if it's not safe, usually there's always a pilot commanding the drone and you fly close. When we want to do other things, like in WildDrone, which we'll talk about shortly, we're doing nature conservation, we want to survey large areas, our drones have to fly far, otherwise it's useless. So we need drones that can cover large areas, and that needs to be done safely. And for that, the drone needs to know about other drones and in particular, other manned aircraft in the area. And either the drone has to have a huge radar and lots of cameras, and cameras don't work so well if it's foggy or if the sun is shining into the camera. It's super difficult to detect other aircraft in the air while you're flying. But if you have a system that actually communicates with the drone and gives it information about where they are, that's much more reliable, provided you have a reliable connection to the drone. So this is not to teleoperate the drone, this is to give the drone updated information on what it needs to be careful about.
So what is when you said they fly long distances, what ranges are we talking about and what height do they fly?
That basically that depends on the mission. In February we were in Kenya doing operations there, and normally you can only fly, if you don't have a special permit, you can only go out to 500 meters, which is called visual line of sight. We're interested in beyond visual line of sight, and when we were there in February, we went out to 5 kilometers distance, nighttime flying, and we've also previously done missions in Denmark. So in Denmark and my lab, we basically at an airport that can close the airspace, so we can do tests for really long distances, and we've gone out farther than that as well. And then it's just about the flight range of the drone.
Is that where you did the 5G?
That's where we did the 5G experiments, yeah. So this was a project we did in collaboration with, amongst others, Ericsson and TDC Denmark. That's the largest Danish telecommunications provider. And they installed a special version they basically gave us slicing, as we were talking about before. Yeah.
Exactly.
So basically, they experimentally gave us slicing of the network to be able to provide quality of service for the drones, such that no matter how many other mobile users are in the area, we could always guarantee that the drones would have a minimal amount of communication. Not necessarily enough to stream lots of data, but we don't care about that. We just want a basic communication channel for safety.
And that was successful, was it?
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Okay. The only way it didn't succeed yet is that it's not yet a commercial package you buy from your telecommunications provider. Please give me a drone package. So I hope you'll see that in the future. But we don't have that yet. But we've proven, and TDC and Ericsson were happy with it, and from the point of view, yes, this makes sense technologically, and we're just waiting for the drone sector to grow more. And for that, it's kind of a chicken and egg, because the drone sector right now is held back by the requirement that there must be one person for every drone flying for safety. This is like thinking about industrial robots, a robot arm that works in a factory. If there was one person watching every industrial robot, we wouldn't have so many industrial robots. That's where drones are stuck at right now. That's why we don't have so many drones, because we don't have a good way of doing it safely. And as long as we don't have a good way of doing it safely, it's a small business sector, and then the government is less inclined to make it happen. Anyway.
But if we move on to the other part of it, which is the WildDrone.
WildDrone project, yes, which is why I'm here.
How do we translate that great work there into Africa? Because I imagine at the moment you haven't got the 5G coverage and slicing. So how do you fly drones in that area?
It's a good question. So maybe let me just very quickly say something about WildDrone. So WildDrone is a research project where we use drones for nature conservation. We develop new drone technology and new AI techniques to support biologists in doing conservation ecology, with the goal of protecting endangered species in Europe and Africa. Now in Europe, 5G is fine in most places, very much so in Denmark, less so in some places. When you go to Africa, there's really good 5G coverage when you're inside Nairobi, but then if you're in the middle of nowhere, it's much more limited. And in that case, our drones have to be able to fly autonomously without any radio connectivity. And so this means that we have to handle safety very conservatively or using other kinds of sensors. And of course, flying lower means that there's less risk of getting close to aircraft. So that's one way to keep safe. Actually, another way to do it is to fly at night, because at night, you don't have so many small aircraft flying because they're not allowed to fly. So that is a way of making things easier for ourselves. But basically, we usually have a cell connectivity, but it might only be 2G, so it would be very little data you could communicate. And sometimes you can't at all. And the drone needs to be able to fly anyway. It's useless as a tool if it stops the mission and flies back every time it loses connectivity.
You mentioned you're out in Kenya earlier in the year.
Yes.
So have you got any sort of, have we able to run any sort of real trials or capture data which is usable, related to wildlife?
Good question, yeah. So we took 30 people there to experiment with it, both biologists and computer scientists and drone engineers, and collected lots of data using our drones. It's a mix of commercial off-the-shelf drones, DJI drones mostly, that do a great job at taking pictures, collecting video, and then our more experimental drones. For example, we have a fixed-wing drone equipped with solar cells that can fly all day because it gets energy from the sun, and it doesn't have a large payload, but it does have a little bit, and a flight computer on board, so you launch it in the morning, and it's going to fly all day. I should say, just be clear now, we haven't done that yet. What we did when we were there in February was we launched it, flew for 2.5 hours. The battery only lasts for 15 minutes normally. It came back down, battery at the same level as when it took off. So when we go in February, we're going to bring different versions of the solar drone with different wing designs, different optimizations, and fly them to try and map out the entire conservancy that we're in, which is a big thing for us.
And what are they capturing then? Is it geo landscape sort of information, or is it video? Or because I'm also thinking of, also if you say flying for 2 hours and you're capturing video, high quality video, you also need to have storage, or are you backhauling it to satellites or something like that?
That's a good question. It's a lot of data. So the smaller fixed-wing drone that we've been flying there doesn't have a lot of power on board, so it just captures images as it flies. And it does, if you were to fly all day, there would be a lot of images, so that's why you need AI to process it. We also do collect video, which ends up being massive amounts of data. Many terabytes of data that's been collected, that are then analyzed afterwards by the biologists. And that's where AI comes in, of course, because otherwise you would spend months going through the data to interpret it. So AI is crucial for this kind of effort.
So thank you for that insights there. Today we're at the AI for Good Summit. Is it your first time here?
My first time here, yes.
And what have you, why did you come and how have you found the event?
I was honored to be invited here for the exposition, so that was nice. I think because when we went there in February, we did a lot of communication about what we were doing, and they noticed us probably on social media, and then they invited us to come here, and I think we're a good fit for the AI for Good umbrella. So I'm happy to be here, and so far it's been a great experience. I've never met so many different people in such a short amount of time in my life before, I think. All kinds of, ordinary people who come by, other scientists, but also investors, and all kinds of different people who I almost didn't know existed. So it's been a good experience so far. Thankfully, our project has been getting a lot of interest. So far so good.
I think you're right. It really is a cocktail of all sorts of people, walks of life, and it is very international, which is great to see, which isn't always the case. But one of the things which also has turned up at the event is someone's mentioned, particularly the first few days, these are the first generation now of young people who are basically brought up with AI as part of their lives. So in that sense, do you have any advice for young people in the area of who are innovating in the area of AI and for social good? Have you got
I think there's, for one thing, for young people, you need to also learn the skills. AI is good to help you with things, but if you don't learn how to think, the AI is not going to do it for you. It can help you. So that's one thing. And then what to do, I'm really happy with the approach we took in WildDrone, where we have an interdisciplinary approach. So we have AI people working together with the drone operator, the drone engineers, such that we build drones that can collect the right kind of data. And what data do we need? We get that from the biologists. So we need an interdisciplinary approach. We need teams of people from different disciplines working together. That's crucial. Otherwise, we're going to be coming up with all kinds of crazy AI-based solutions that will not make the world a better place.
Well, that I totally agree. And as you say, using those different skill sets is really, really important. If we look beyond the project and the work you're doing now, is there a particular part of the world and let's say, where there's a pressing need that needs to be addressed in some form or another, other than the work that you're doing now?
Well, for one thing, what we're doing is we're working with the biodiversity crisis in very specific locations. A few select locations in Europe, a few select locations in Africa. But unfortunately, it's a global problem. We're in the middle of what biologists call the sixth mass extinction. Only 5 times previously in the history of the world has that many animals gone extinct at the same time. Think back to 65 million years ago when a meteor hit the Earth and killed all the dinosaurs. That's what we're in the middle of. And we need to be using AI for good for that problem globally, in my view. That's one of the most important problems we face as a species at the moment. Potentially even worse than the climate crisis. The climate crisis, we have some idea about what's happening. The biodiversity crisis, we have no idea what's going to happen if ecosystems collapse all over the world. It's big, and that's what we need to work on.
I think that's really, really empowering and very, very, very relevant for us. And as you say, actually, there are all sorts of, let's say, species disappearing, and we actually don't know what we're losing. We don't even have that concept.
We don't really know how much we're losing. At least for the climate crisis, we can at least measure the temperature. For the biodiversity crisis, we have a hard time counting how many animals there are of a given species because we lack the technology. So better technology, for example, drones could also be satellites or anything else that can collect data. I like drones, and satellites are just space drones, so that's fine. And then AI to interpret the data and make sense of it, such that we can inform decision makers, politicians about what to do. That's what we need.
Well, our podcast is also about trying to do good for the planet, and we'd like to give our guests the opportunity to do a shout out. So I want to give you the opportunity to give a shout out to someone or a group that you think are doing good.
I'm just going to mention the first thing that came to my mind, which is just locally here. I talked to some people they have a small startup company called Namu. They also have drones, but they're collecting eDNA in the environment. So they have a drone that flies around and samples things inside a rainforest. That is so cool. I want to do that in my next project as well. So I'll give a shout out to them.
Okay, well done for doing so. Anyway, you are now part of the Digital Talk community. Thank you very much for being a guest on our podcast.
Sure.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to rate us and subscribe. And feel free to follow us on LinkedIn. And if you have comments or ideas for future episodes, please send us an email. Thanks for being part of the Digital Talk community and for listening. Stay tuned.